Hello, hello, everyone. Come on in. Hello, happy Wednesday night. Thank you for calling in. I was just telling the callers, our wonderful members tonight, that tonight is my favorite night of the month. Welcome back to those of you who are return watchers. We are going to wait just a few minutes until folks file in. Cool. All right, it's folks can watch the recording of the first 2 minutes if they missed it. But welcome everyone to our monthly webinar. My name is Maddie Roach. I am XYPN's Director of Member Services, and I am honored every month to be able to host this open call with two of our VIPs, our awesome XYPN members. We have an awesome call tonight. Typically, we talk about things specific to an advisor's experience running their firms, things like marketing, things like getting clients, things like servicing them. But tonight we're going to talk about my favorite topic, which is how XYPN helps the advisor in all of those different capacities. So we're going to cover compliance, we're going to cover training and resources, we're going to cover the community that so many of you have heard about. This call is intended for our non-members. We've been hosting this call for over 3 years now, if you can believe it. And it has been a fabulous tool to kind of move that curtain away a little bit with what it's like behind the curtain and in XYPN membership. What does it mean to be a member? How does it feel? What's the real experience? Because we certainly tell you a lot via email. We certainly tell you a lot on our website. But tonight's call is going to be about XYPN and in each of these awesome members' experiences being a member and being part of this movement that we began 5 years ago tomorrow. Those of you who don't know, XYPN is turning 5 tomorrow. So we have certainly grown, we've certainly changed, we've certainly been able to work with more and more advisors over these years, and we're just so happy to be on this call tonight to be able to answer some of your questions, certainly live and the ones that you've already submitted. So thank you so much for submitting those questions. Before I begin, I always need to do my disclaimers. You all are on mute. Please do drop in your questions into the Q&A section of Zoom. We do want to make sure that we know if these calls are effective or not. And we definitely want to give thanks to the members. So if for some reason this was the call, this was the tipping point for you joining XYPN, please let us know in your application. Write Nancy and Ben's name in there. We always ask, is there someone who referred you to XYPN? And we urge you to cite these members if this was the reason. We thank them generously through those referral credits, and we want to be sure that these members are properly thanked for helping you make the decision to jump in. And we do recognize that the decision to jump into XYPN is not the same as buying a vacuum. You don't make that decision overnight. So you may need to come back a couple more times to these calls before you make that decision, and I urge you to. But that is disclaimer number one. Also, those that are attending tonight are going to receive a special offer regarding XYPN Live, our national conference. So do check your inbox after this. You will get a little something in that. And then, of course, I need to plug our next month's webinar, which, let's see, next month will be May. Yep. And we will be talking about investment management and fee-only planning and how to do both successfully. So we're back onto those topic-based conversations. So those are my disclaimers. So without further ado, let's introduce our wonderful members. Nancy Nahn, would you mind introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about your firm, where you're located, who you serve.
Sure, thanks, Maddie. Hi, everybody. My name is Nancy Nahn, and I am in the Philadelphia suburbs. So the area that I service is primarily in the Philadelphia area. I've been in the business for over 20 years. I went out on my own last year, and I launched formally in April of 2018. And I work with primarily women. They're not exclusively women because half of my clients are actually couples. Yeah. But it's usually the women that are phoning me or reaching out to me. And yeah, I've been with XY since I think I'm coming up, I guess it's been a year and a half that I've been working with XY, and it's been a great experience. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Nancy. And Ben, how about you?
Hey everyone, nice to meet you. So my name is Ben. I'm the founder of Ketwich Capital, and I'm based out of Jersey City, New Jersey. So just across the river from Manhattan. My primary client base are, I would say, rising professionals and kind of emerging families. Typically in the kind of late 30s, early 40s, family formation age, and in urban environments. So my client base is in Jersey City and New York, and I also have clients in San Francisco and LA. So do a little bit of traveling over there a couple times a year. I joined XY Planning in May of 2017. I think I had launched in July. The first few months, we actually purchased a house, so we were pretty involved with doing some renovations here. So I kind of consider the beginning of 2018 is really kind of my super official date. I had a couple clients in 2017, but you know, I've basically been at this full time since January 2018, and yeah, still going well now.
Boom, awesome! It's amazing how fast time flies when you are an entrepreneur and business owner. Ben, tell us about how you became registered. Did you use XYPN?
Yep. So I went through the registration process. I actually did an accelerated version. So I had one client who was kind of waiting and wanted to get started quickly. So I did an accelerated track. My first kind of exposure was through the academy class. So that kind of helped me get everything ready. But Scott Gill and the compliance team actually kind of launched me a little bit quicker than a lot of people I had started with, because I had that one client who's kind of waiting to get started on the investing side.
Yes. So Ben is talking about our expedited compliance services. So if you did want to get registered in more like the 4 to 6 week time period, we do have that. Nancy, was that your same experience? I don't believe you went through the XYPN process.
That's correct. I started working on my registration before I learned about XYPN. And I hired a company out in Omaha, Nebraska, and they did a good job, but I dropped about $3,500 to hire them. And then I learned about XY, and by the time I decided to join XY, I was almost through the entire compliance process. And I think it would have been easier for how things run in the next compliance update. So I had to get all of my information to compliance for XYPN. They didn't have it because I started with a place other than XY.
Interesting. There is a fair number of members who have that story, Nancy. They come in and upon their first meeting with their member experience specialist, they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I could have had it done through you guys. So that is somewhat of a common issue, and it's not an issue that you seem to make it work. So 2 different perspectives here for our callers, which is really wonderful. Nancy, tell us about how, despite not knowing about the initial registration services, how did you stumble upon XY, and what initially drew you to it?
I found out about it from an advisor that I worked with at my prior firm. So I had left. I knew I wanted to go out on my own, and we were just exchanging notes because he started his own practice as well. He went down another road, kind of like a broker-dealer situation, but he had told me about XY Planning, and I really was attracted to it because of it felt like it was on the cutting edge as far as software and really material content. And I really liked everybody. Maddie was actually the first person I talked to, and it's hard not to love Maddie, within 5 minutes. So I felt that connection, and I felt like it was a more modern type of approach to financial planning rather than what I'm used to seeing, which is, not to be inappropriate, but like older white men in their mid 50s. So I like the diversity that I saw with XY Planning Network. It really felt like a good fit for me.
Awesome. And Ben, what about you? What initially, how did you first hear about XY, and then what drew you in?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I started my firm in 2017, but prior to that, I had actually spent about 10 years as an equity analyst on Wall Street. So I was totally new to the financial planning side of the world. long story there, which I'm happy to share if it comes up again. But my first exposure to XY was actually a wife of a friend that I knew from our church who was a member of XY Planning Network, and she was a former CPA and had her own planning practice in Manhattan. So I talked to her. I had seen the XY Planning website, but I had no idea it had this huge infrastructure and membership package behind it. The only thing that kind of crossed my radar back then was RIA in a box. So I was familiar with that. But after talking to Julie Ford of Ford Financial and understanding really the breadth of kind of what XY offered, I was basically all in immediately because it's everything that I needed to kind of go from 0 to 60.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ben, keep talking about that. Tell us about some of the stuff you didn't know that was behind the curtain that now you know.
Yeah, so I think a couple things. Certainly the tech stack was hugely helpful. I didn't know how I was going to cobble all of that together. So I could have paid someone to kind of help me with the compliance, but I still would have had to vet all these different vendors. So that was a huge bonus. For me too, I knew that I had a lot of kind of catching up to do on the financial planning side. So my kind of differentiation was going to be helping out more on the investing side. That's kind of where I was stronger based on my prior career. So for me, a custodian relationship was hugely important. So I didn't really know how to get that started. Most custodians won't even kind of look at you unless you have at least $10, $15 million in assets out of management. So I had zero getting started. So I definitely needed some help there. So once I found out, I think that was pretty soon after XY had formed the relationship with TD Ameritrade. That was huge for me. So I was basically all in at that point.
Awesome. Yeah, you timed it exactly right. You joined right around April or May, and we had just established that partnership in January of 2017.
Yeah.
Which was, to this day, I think one of our largest partnerships, if not the largest partnership, with TD Ameritrade. They waived their minimums for XYPN advisors. That's how much they believe in what Nancy and Ben are doing, what you guys are doing, who are our callers, and that's their ode to the movement of XY, is to be able to support these advisors who may not be working with the ultra wealthy. Nancy, what was the surprise to you behind the curtain once you became a member? Anything you didn't know you would get?
It definitely the networking within the other members. I've been really impressed with the quality and the types of people too. So, and there's people coming from all types of professions and backgrounds. You have CFAs, CPAs, people that have been really successful in a career elsewhere and even specialized in something. And then they enjoy financial planning. They're very interested in it. And it actually makes a really good market for them. One of the girls in my study group, she was in tech. And so she focuses on women in technology. And she's hitting it out of the park because everybody knows that's what she's a pro in. And her background was not in financial planning. She doesn't even have her CFP yet. So yeah, that would be the best answer I can think of.
Love it. And we're going to talk more about the community because I think that's definitely a crux of some of the member benefits that goes kind of under, not really recognized as a non-member, is this community aspect. But Ben, we actually had a caller drop in a question in the Q&A about your choice to not use RIA in a box. Could you provide a little bit more insight in that decision?
Yeah, sure. I think it was helpful that I knew someone who had actually been a part of XY planning. Mm-hmm. I was talking to Julie a lot for a few months, trying to understand, what is the value. She had looked at RIA in a box as well. So I think hopefully this call is helpful for people who you get to put a face with it. People who are actually using the platform. I mean, that was a big point for me. I trusted Julie. I knew her really well. But then, as I kind of unpacked some of the offerings, the community I was a little bit aware of, but really for me it was just kind of practically that custodian relationship and the tech stack. Those are tools that I needed to be able to survive, immediately going. So I didn't really see that in RIA in a box. It was mainly kind of get you started for a certain fee. Here's the compliance, background. And, it wasn't really much more robust than that.
Yeah. And we, RIA in a Box does great work. And in fact, we've tried to replicate the service, the types of service that RIA in a Box offers to their clients is very similar in terms of what kind of support we want to offer our members. So I hope that attendee now has their answer. I'd like to talk a little bit about the support XY has with you in terms of helping you find clients. Nancy, are you on our profile page? Have you gotten any leads? If not, or if so, what other ways does XY help you get clients?
It's great. I've been, most of my clients are coming from, actually all of them are searched on the internet. I've been able to bring in about, on average, 2 new clients a month, and I've done no marketing. What I did make sure, though, is before I launched, was to have my information up anywhere that somebody could look for an advisor. So XYPN, and then NAPFA. So the NAPFA membership comes with being an XYPN member, and then the CFP, and I'm also a CIMA. So I track all of my prospects that come in, and about half of them are coming in from XY and NAPFA.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really been beneficial. That would surprise me too. Because I remember when I joined and I asked you that question about, are you going to help me find people? And you said, well, we have an advisor search. And I think people are really using it. And I've also found that the people that find me through XY and through NAPFA, they're really interested in looking for a fiduciary. And they've already vetted me. So a lot of them that come to me, I call it a warm close, because I'm kind of what they're looking for. And that's a nice thing about the advisor search is, the client has the ability to narrow it down. So you have a better chance of closing that kind of a lead in that situation.
Absolutely. Great stats. And I'm impressed and glad that you're tracking that. Those are KPIs we really urge our advisors to track, get Google Analytics and watch where some of your leads are coming from. And I'm sure in that same sentence, Nancy, I said, we don't guarantee clients, but we have actually just centralized on our website, the consumer Find an Advisor profile page is now front and center on xyplanningnetwork.com. So that is another move we've made to be able to put that at the front and center for our consumers who land on our page. Ben, how about you? Are you on the profile? If not, have we helped you get clients or support you in that endeavor?
Yeah, so yes, but I would say for a very different reason. So I had to kind of go back to school last year and catch up on financial planning. So half of last year I really spent in the book studying for my CFP, and I'm waiting back for the results from the March test. I just sat for that a couple weeks ago. So thank you. We'll see how it goes. I'm on pins and needles. But yeah, so I'm not searchable really on the website. I don't have my CFP yet. But what's been interesting is the leads that have come to me have actually come from other XYPN advisors in my market, which is huge surprise. I wasn't expecting that. But other advisors who are in New York and in Jersey City in particular, who are a year, 2, 3 years ahead of me, that are maybe starting to hit, kind of their limit on client base, or they're getting so much traffic now that they can't say yes to everyone. They kind of became my clients after that. They were handed down, they were recommended to me. And those were my first clients in those first 6 months. And that was huge to have that resource, and very selfless of the community to kind of do that. So now I'm kind of a year and a half into this, and I have a pretty good client base that's growing, a pretty good pipeline. And there's an advisor in New York who's about a year behind me, and I'm starting to pass leads that are not a perfect fit for kind of where I'm headed down that way. So it's really a fantastic thing that's happened. And I think all those doors will open up that Nancy mentioned too. Once I get my CFP, I can be on the website. I'll be more public on NAPFA. But yeah, it's been the community has been, has brought in clients for me, which has been fantastic. I really, really appreciate it.
That's huge. And that's a testament to you leaning into the community too. If you weren't engaged, members wouldn't know who you were.
That's
So
cool.
congratulations on getting those leads from those people. And we were just doing data as a team recently and looking it over. The main area that folks find clients are through the personal relationships they have, especially in the first 5 years. It's not until about year 5 where inbound marketing becomes the main source for client sources. But those were interesting stats, and I think you guys just hit that on the head. Nancy, let's talk a little bit about tech, everyone's favorite topic. Tell us about XY's tech stack, what you kind of use and what you love. If there's anything you don't like, let us know. Yeah, tech stack.
Okay, there's so much. There's actually, it's a long list to choose from. And in a lot of categories, there's multiple vendors that you can look at. The financial planning software is one of the best examples. So there's Money Guide Pro, I think that was, yeah, Money Guide Pro, eMoney, Right Capital, and I kind of bounced around a little bit. I used one, I didn't really like it that much, and I've used a lot of financial planning software in the past, so I wanted to get a feel for what would work for me. I like that it's month to month for the payment because that allowed me to try things out for a couple of months. Like usually they give you 2 weeks, maybe 30 days. But allow me to try things out, and if I didn't like it, I could jump to something else or even run them simultaneously, and then I picked the one that I wanted and I stuck with that. What else? Everything I do, I think, is through, all my technology is through XY. So I use Riskalyze, I use the RIA, my RIA.
Yep, smart
compliance. Yeah, and I got to look at my list here because there's so much. Let's see.
I don't mean to test you.
Yeah, because I'm failing miserably. Precise FP has been huge. So I've learned about different types of platforms that can actually improve my productivity. And that's what I really like about the tech stack. It's actually kind of a two-sided coin though, because there's a lot there to choose from, which is great because you have a lot of options. But if you don't know the playing field that much, you don't know the players, it can be difficult to narrow it down. And so I think that's the only disadvantage. And that's one of the pieces that I've given as feedback in terms of helping advisors kind of figure out what path they want to go down with their tech stack. It's great to have all the options, but if you have no idea how to put them together, that's a challenge.
Yes, it sure is. And then we've been urging our partners to work together to make those integrations more seamless. But we are at the mercy of our wonderful vendors. So Ben, tell us about your tech stack. What do you love? What don't you love? What are you using?
Yeah, I think Nancy's last point, I think, really speaks to me too. There really is so much out there. And I was pretty unfamiliar with this landscape. So, if you're on the call and you feel like you've used eMoney or Money Guide Pro and that's your go-to, then that might be your comfort zone. It was all pretty much new to me. So I basically went straight down with kind of the recommended built into the membership fee tech stack. So Smart RIA, I'm using that for compliance. Wealthbox is my CRM. I'm using Right Capital for my financial planning software. I use AdvicePay for my financial planning billing, and then TD Ameritrade is my custodian. So, I thought that people had probably vetted this a lot better than I ever would. So I didn't really want to question that to begin with. And then, the second thing for me too was I just really wanted to keep fees down in year one. So, I didn't know how the first few years were going to go. So I didn't want to start to kind of build too big of a ship before people could actually get on board. So that was a big thing for me. I think it's totally possible to keep your tech stack pretty inexpensive. And I would really recommend that you shoot for kind of the recommended stack that's kind of built into your fee anyways and see how that goes. And if you want to bolt on other things that are more specific, you'll have plenty of time to do that. But I think, for me, I'm basically using the kind of recommended majority tech stack that most people in the community are.
Awesome. And we're very sensitive to the fact that our members build their firms around our tech, so we're not in the business of shaking up our tech stack all that often. I can name 4 different occasions over the past 5 years that we have changed in our tech stack, and those were, we've given proper credit, proper notice, and supplemented it with a replacement, and things like that. If you want to know more details, I can talk through those. But let's talk about, given that context that we don't typically shake up the tech stack, despite adding a few things here and there to complement it, have you felt like XYPN has expanded member benefits since you've joined, Nancy?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I can't even keep up with it all. So there's so many benefits. There's one, I wish I could spend more time with it, but Kitsis reports. So having access to all Michael Kitsis' stuff is amazing, because he just, the man's a machine. I don't think he sleeps. There's so much that he publishes, and I want to read all of it, but I don't have time to. So yeah, that really has resonated with me.
Awesome. Yeah, he did actually write a blog post on the fact that he does sleep. He sleeps like 7 to 8 hours a day. Ben, how about you? Do you feel like XY has evolved a bit in terms of benefits over the past year and a half or so?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I would agree to, where I appreciate kind of some of the pressure that you guys put on vendors too. You're in the market vouching for us, which is absolutely huge to have the breadth of 750 practices, not just me kind of going to one vendor. So I see the vendors. I was on the phone with Right Capital earlier today about some changes, and they're hearing from the community a lot, a couple things that they want changed on that platform. So that's been great. Some of the in-house technologies like AdvicePay, that's had a lot of changes in the past couple of years. I think that's probably one that I've appreciated the most. My billing, the way that I'm billing my clients now, most of my projects in the first year were kind of one-off plans. Now I'm actually fully moving on to a retainer model as of this year. And one thing AdvicePay to make that really easy on the feedback from everyone that uses the platform is to allow you to charge kind of your upfront fee and then the monthly retainer fee as 2 separate kind of tiers. So I just sent out a proposal, new agreement for a client yesterday, and they get 1 email from AdvicePay with me automatically CC'd with that upfront payment, and then kind of the monthly is lined up there as well. I mean, that's hugely helpful to kind of tweak those things rather than getting multiple emails. So that's been a huge help. That's where all my financial planning revenue comes from that billing software. So that's super important.
You know what I would add to that? It's the things that make it better. They're little things. Like I use AdvicePay too, and now e-signature is available in AdvicePay. So now I'm able to move all of my documents over there and have it in one place, because I was using HelloSign before for my electronic signatures. So little things like that just really increase your productivity and bring down your cost. I mean, it's only $15 a month that brought it down, but that's great. And everything's all in one place. So I think that the change that I've seen it at XY that's good, it's incremental. It's not like some big gigantic new thing. It's these small incremental changes and upgrades that really help you as an advisor.
Yeah, love it. I appreciate the point about time. I joke on my Welcome to the Network call that the #1 most requested member benefit is more hours in the day. And that is actually something that XYPN can help with. We really can save time, whether it is vetting of the tech or just those small incremental integrations. So thanks for that point, Nancy. Ben, we had a question for you. Actually, I'll save that one. Let's stick on the tech stack topic. WealthBox is made available. However, WealthBox does not integrate with Fidelity or Schwab. How do you handle that, and does it matter? Ben?
Yeah, so I'm on TD. There's an integration there already. I'm probably not using it as fully as I should, to be honest. CRM for me is largely a place where I was just recording my client notes. So that's kind of my repository for every conversation I have. I'll put in there as soon as the call or meeting's over, so I can go back and check it. I just recently upgraded to like the premium version. So now I have access to email, and I like the tracking ability, so I can see when clients have actually read the email, if I know not to bug them. That's been super helpful for me. So I'm slowly trying to transition away from Gmail, which is basically I'm using G Suite for that. But I'm not really using the integration into TD Ameritrade maybe as much as I should be. But I think the lack of a CRM plugin, and I think I'm getting updates from Wealthbox all the time that they're adding new features too. So they might not have a relationship with Schwab today, but that's not necessarily true. That's going to be the case indefinitely.
Yeah, and to that point, there will likely be members at XY who are using Wealthbox and Fidelity, and that would be an awesome question for the member forums. Nancy, any comments about that?
I use Wealthbox as well. I really like it. It integrates with e-money for me, and that's huge. And I use Precise FP too, because I like the ability to, have the questionnaire so easy. Clients fill it in, they can attach files, and then everything I can export to e-money. So I have not, for right now at this point in my practice, it's not an issue, but I can see, if you get to an AUM level that's higher, then you would want to have that integration rather than having to copy or make notes in two places for compliance reasons. And I think that's ultimately why people want to get it integrated. So from a compliance standpoint, it's easy to find and track, and there's no duplication.
Awesome. Nancy, do you manage investments? And if so, have you ever used Capitect?
No, I don't manage investments. I am currently strictly a fee-only advisor. I advise on investments, but I'm not actually managing them. That's part of my goal in 2019, is to actually move towards that. I did that for a big part of my career, but when I started, to me, investments are, it's a commodity. And I'm trying to find the best fit for me as an advisor and the type of people that I service. And I feel like I've needed some time to figure that out, to see what's kind of falling from the tree that I'm shaking in this market that I'm talking to.
Awesome.
So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. We had someone ask about if they don't do asset management in-house and what you can do about that. Ben, are you familiar with Capitect?
Yeah. So I do investing as well. My custodian TD Ameritrade, as I mentioned before. And it's actually very funny that you're bringing this up. I don't know if you just got this in the queue, but there was my billing software right now that I'm using is actually through BillFin, and I think that my contract with them is up in about a month.
Oh.
And I believe that they have doubled their prices. So I think I've seen this on the Facebook page a little bit too. But I haven't looked into Capitec yet, but now it's on my radar. I think for me, the performance reporting would certainly be helpful, but I really, one of the things I definitely want to outsource and I'm happy to pay for is AUM billing. That's a really important double check for me. I was doing it manually initially when it was just a couple clients, but it quickly became unruly. I don't find it fun. It's there's a lot of places, if you make a mistake there, it's a huge compliance issue. So I'm happy to pay for the right software. I don't necessarily want to pay double for that. So Capitec's definitely on my radar and probably on my person to call list in the next few months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we have a slogan that people can come to XY for the tech and then stay for the community. So let's talk a little bit about the community. Nancy, you mentioned study group, mastermind group. They're kind of analogous. Tell us about that. How'd you get into it? Who's in it? What do you do? Do you love it? Do you like it? Do you hate it?
I love my study group. I do.
You're in a really great study group.
Yeah. It was like the biggest surprise joining XYPN. So the study group, you volunteer for it, so you're not forced into a study group. And the problem with working on your own is that you're all alone. I used to work with a lot of dentists, and it was a real challenge for them because they have a practice and it's mostly just them. And there are very few ways for them to actually network and exchange information and ideas with each other, except for a study group. So the dentists have their own study groups. Of course, they're regional. And so I thought that that would probably be a good idea, it costs nothing. And it's just been fantastic. It's a very diverse group of us. It's 3 men, 3 women. There are, let's see, we have like 2 MBAs. I think there's out of 6 of us, there's like 4 CFPs, there are CPAs, there's an EA, an enrolled agent. So the backgrounds, it's just absolutely amazing how many things that we're able to do a lot quicker by helping each other. And one of the things we started doing is a working session. So for example, we'll take Smart RIA and we meet once a week. And we actually grouped, it used to be 60 minutes, we extended it to 90 minutes. And that gives us an opportunity to like do something, a chore that we all kind of dread, but it has to be done. And things like that just help tremendously. I really, the study group and, the networking in general, even on, Ben, I never knew Ben until now. And now I'm learning a lot about him and what he can do and who maybe I can refer to him. Because that's also true, is that in my study group, we've referred leads to each other.
Awesome. Great. Ben, are you in a mastermind / study group?
Yep, I am. I'm in a group of 4 other guys. What we do too is we jump on a video just like this. Our call is actually tomorrow afternoon. So we meet once every Thursday, but we're in a Slack channel together. So we created a Slack account. And we are literally talking throughout the entire day. And I really cannot emphasize how incredibly important that's been. And we say that all the time. It really is iron sharpening iron in there. These guys are super smart, but we all have questions. We feel, dumb asking them, and it's become a very safe place where we can all learn from each other and no judgment. So that really for us got kicked off after this past conference. So we'd all kind of known each other, but we decided, why don't we kind of, try and stay in a little bit more community. Started with the videos, moved to the Slack channel. We weren't sure where that was going to go, but these are, we joke that we're coworkers now, because that's, we can't walk past each other's desks because we all live in different states all throughout the country, which is really fun perspective too. But it's true. We know what's going on in each other's family lives and all that stuff. So that has really been fantastic. And I deeply value that group.
I love that. Alan always says loneliness can kill an entrepreneur, and that's not a pretty saying, but the idea there is that going at it alone is admirable, but we really do believe that you will be better off with a community and folks to be able to bounce ideas off of. Nancy, what's been your experience with working within the member forums?
In the member forums, I haven't spent a ton of time doing that. I've just had a lot of other things going on, so I haven't been in them that much, to be honest with you. So that's a benefit that I really haven't dived into at this point.
Yeah, and what we've learned over these years is that member engagement differs among members. There is really no right way to engage in membership. Thankfully, we have all different types of avenues and different ways you can construct your membership and engagement. So if reading forums isn't your thing, being in a mastermind is, that's how you do it. Ben, what about you? Have you spent much time in the member forums?
Yeah, I think when I was initially getting going, it was a huge resource for me. There's lots of compliance questions that I had, particularly like the FAQs, I think that's the section called. That was really helpful, but it's kind of been a library resource. I haven't participated much either. And now that I have this like Slack channel and this group that I'm involved with, we've basically started to segment out our own Slack channel into different topics like you would see in the forum too. So the conversations can get really specific about things super deep in TD Ameritrade, or we can, have a general financial planning question. So we've kind of segmented that out. So yeah, not something I've used more recently, but it's something I will go back to if there might be a compliance issue. I had a question about California last year, and I looked and someone had written about that like 3 or 4 years ago, way back in the day. And it was exactly the answer I needed. So there's a lot of wisdom in there. So you have to kind of sift through it a little bit. But yeah, I would just encourage people again to try and make personal connections with people that you're launching with, or if you end up at the conference this year and future years, try and find people that you can connect with on a one-on-one basis. That is really such an important advantage.
Yeah, awesome. And we are transitioning on nearly our 5th birthday to a new forum platform that makes searching a lot easier, Ben, to your point. And Nancy, to your point, to encourage you to come on back and see if this new forum platform speaks to you a little bit better in terms of engagement. But we really do find that once advisors are in these mastermind groups, that really becomes their first line of defense with issues, with successes, with all that good stuff. And really, some folks become great friends. Other people become each other's succession plans, and like Ben and Nancy, at least a really, really wonderful weekly event to look forward to. To answer a caller's question, not a member's question, you are not assigned into a study group. We are going to make them a little bit more of the expected route of engagement over the next couple months, but we always have kind of a standing option for you to join a group. And once you submit your information, it takes a couple weeks for us to collect the other members, but then we facilitate the first few meetings. Ben talked about XYPN Live, our national conference, and I would love to talk a little bit about your feelings about our conference and the education that you get, the networking that happens, the pre-cons, post-cons, all that good stuff. Ben, you did attend last year. Tell us a little bit about XYPN Live and what to expect.
Yeah, so I was at the last 2 actually. So I was in Dallas and I was in St. Louis last year, and it was fantastic. I think I had never been to a conference like that before. I've been to a lot of conferences in a 10-year Wall Street career, like many conferences in boring, hotel lobbies and just very dry. But the atmosphere and the energy is just unlike anything I've ever really experienced before. The casual atmosphere too is very nice. It's a jeans and t-shirt kind of place. Bunch of kids and families running around too. So again, I think we've talked about this a lot on this call, but it really is true. I think a huge X factor in XY planning is the community. So it's, you see people writing blogs and writing in the forums where this community is spread all throughout the country. It's truly national. So to kind of get everyone together in one place is super exciting, and people are excited to be there and put faces to, names and posts that they've been reading about. It was just a fantastic experience.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Nancy, how about you? Your experience at XYPN Live?
Last year in St. Louis was the first one I went to, and same as Ben, I've been to so many conferences throughout my career, and it was hands down one of the best ones I've ever been to. Mm-hmm. And for a couple of reasons. First of all, it was so organized. It was just executed really well. And a lot of times conferences, you kind of get confused about where to go, but it was just organized really well. The content was really relevant, both in terms of the lectures and the vendors. So the vendors, it wasn't like a bunch of mutual fund companies trying to get me to sell their stuff. It was all about, your business. So working on your business, not just the investment management, but all the other pieces that you have to look at when you're your own RIA firm. So I really like that. And I thought it was cool. There's a day that is a vendor day. So the vendors are up for just one day. And it's great for them because our job as an attendee at the conference is to visit every vendor. And that was really cool because it was just, an opportunity to really spend time rather than in between breaks, which is how most conferences operate. It was really nice to have a day to just be able to go around to the vendors and all the tchotchke contest. What do you call that? The swag? The swag contest was awesome. So some really good swag there. And I also like that day that there are breakout sessions that are run by members. So all these kind of little meetings going on at the conference instead of the big on-stage lectures, which was really cool because you could go a little bit deeper into some other area of, of running an RIA firm. So it was awesome. And the party the last night was so cool. So, I mean, everything from the content to the people to the venue was just really great.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you appreciate the one-day exhibit hall. That was a really strategic decision Alan and Michael made several years back with our conference. It's great for the exhibitors too, because they only have to stay for one day and not three, but it does make it a fun event for our members to just go around and see what else is out there, the fintech competition, and these techs that they may not have had an opportunity to learn about before. I just talked to a member yesterday who said one of the best parts of membership this year for him was learning about Vestwell, who won our fintech competition 2 years ago. Nancy, to go back to your experience at the conference, do you have any recommendations for folks who maybe haven't joined XY yet or haven't started their firm? Is it worth it for them to come?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, because there's so many, all the pieces that you need to start your firm. There are vendors there that you can talk to. And it's not just one vendor. It's not like, XYPN has said, this is the only person, the only vendor you can talk to. There's a variety there. And so, yeah, I think from being a new firm owner or an existing one, because technology changes, things change in your business, and something else may be more suitable, even if you're already up and running. But for a new firm, which I was still, in year one, it was great because I did discover a couple of vendors that I thought would be a good fit for my business model.
Mm.
Awesome. Ben, what about you? Thoughts on people who don't yet have their firm or maybe haven't joined XY yet?
Yeah, totally. I think it's a great risk reward. I think it's not too much to go to the conference compared to other industry conferences. It's extremely affordable. So thank you for doing that. Really appreciate that, XY. Makes a big difference. I shared a room with 3 other guys. So you can share too. So that's there. We didn't really know each other that well before going into it. We sure did after. So, but I really do recommend it. I met a couple people at the conference this year who were not members. And one guy, I think, got the award for talking to every vendor. He literally met everyone there. And that's what a great ROI on that. So he's trying to figure out if this is right for him, and he talked to every single person that you brought in, and that didn't cost him anything more than the price of admission. So I think it's great. I've stayed in touch with some of those guys, and I've gotten emails as they've kind of started to work through their thoughts and how they're going to get and when's the right time for them to get to the point where they're stepping out of the boat and starting their own practice as well. And that's great. They made that relationship with me and other people who are already members that they can always bounce ideas off of. So I think it's a great low risk, kind of way to get exposure into this and kind of a first taste of this. I'll also just say, as Nancy was describing the conference, I was thinking, this conference really for me was the first time I felt like something powerful was happening in the industry. And you really get that sense, it's, last year there were, I forget how many hundreds of people there, but it feels, amazing. So it feels big, but still small because you can have very intimate conversations with people and catch up. Mm-hmm. But there is something that is really something very interesting that's going on in the financial service industry right now. The fiduciary channel is growing, and it's starting to take market share. And I think it's an exciting place to be in an environment when you can that growth and that energy is palpable at the conference. So I would highly recommend you to check it out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I try to tell new members that you'll get goosebumps at the opening ceremony, only because this is really the place that so many of you guys have experienced people kind of turning up their nose at the idea of working with Gen X and Gen Y, or really have strong opinions about being fee-only or fiduciary. Whereas when you're in the kind of confines of our conference, you're among like-minded advisors who truly believe and who are doing the hard work of shifting this industry. And I give you guys all of the credit. You really, this is a celebratory time at our conference for the work that you guys have all done. Great answers for that. Let's talk a little bit about XYPN's staff, and that is not a plug for my role by any means, but tell us about the experience you've had working with the XYPN staff, Ben. Have they been responsive to questions? Do you feel supported from the staff perspective?
Yeah, totally. So I think maybe in the last year or so, XY kind of started to segment out the membership population a little bit, mainly because I feel like Maddie, probably everyone was going and bugging you. So you've expanded, the team's expanded. So now I think most people have like at least one main liaison into XY. So my main point of contact is Taylor. Taylor reaches out to me, I think about once a quarter, and just wants to touch base. What's going on? How are you doing? Is there anything that we can be doing? I've really appreciated that status check, and it's just another touch base. So yep, I feel like anytime I need something, I could reach out to Taylor, and extremely responsive. So I think it's really smart as XY, the members have grown. You guys have adapted your own staffing to accommodate that. So I feel like I have representation, within the XY community. Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. Ben is talking about our member experience program that we rolled out January of last year. And Ben's right. We reach out to our members either quarterly or every 6 months just to see what's going on and to ask for a call. It's during those calls that the staff members are able to ask the real hard questions about favorite parts of membership, least favorite parts of membership, hardest part of running an RIA. All of that data flows directly up to the directors and to Michael and Alan on a monthly basis. So when we say we're a member-driven network, we really mean it. We really can quote stats on what the hardest part of membership, the hardest part of running an RIA is for folks in their first year, for the folks in their 5th year, things like that. So it's that data gathering, but also that support that we hope to be able to provide our members so that they don't feel like they're overwhelmed with membership. Nancy, whether it be the MES program or other staff members on staff, have you felt like XY has supported you as a staff perspective?
Yeah, just in the past year, seeing the organization grow, kind of like Ben alluded to, in terms of instead of Maddie does everything, because you are very extremely dependable, follow through. And with the growth of the organization, that culture has continued amongst even the new people. So what I love is that you're proactive. The quarterly touches is great, and that you follow up. And so that's where a lot of people fall down in terms of supporting you. So they'll ask you what you need, and then they just leave it at that. So I've been really impressed. Just the culture of the company. It's real professional and casual at the same time. It's refreshing.
Awesome. Awesome. Nancy, is there anything XY doesn't offer that you would like to see XY offer one day in terms of support or benefits or resources?
Maybe some, types of insurance that we could get as a group.
Yes.
Yeah, health insurance or life insurance. So to be able to take advantage of the number of us now, because I don't know how many we're up to now. The last I heard was 750. So, okay. So yeah, I think that would be a really good benefit to have, because when you're independent, you lose the advantage of being in those group plans. If you've come from a large employer, like a lot of us have.
I couldn't agree more. Those are the benefits that we hope to roll out, and that when we talk about our membership numbers, it's not us bragging about us becoming this large network. It really is important for us to grow because of the leverage we have with our partnerships. The health insurance is we have to hit a threshold of advisors who will sign up, things like that. So we talk a lot about strength of numbers in numbers, and it's part of the reason we were able to partner with eMoney 3 years ago and TD Ameritrade 3 years ago. It's part of the reason we're able to roll out some of these newer benefits. Ben, what about you? What would you hope XY can offer in the future years?
I think honestly, I'm pretty satisfied with kind of where my operation is right now. Like I mentioned before, I think like on the technology side, I spend every day I'm in TD Ameritrade and Wright Capital for hours and hours and hours, and on the phone with the support people, processing paperwork through TD. So those are my worlds. the other things that you guys are doing, like kind of on the periphery, like Smart RIA was a huge help, just to systematize the compliance process for me, because that can be a little bit of a beast. But I'm pretty happy with, from like the technology and tech stack. I really don't have any complaints. I think the only thing I'm really trying to figure out right now is AUM billing. And I know I actually wrote down, sometimes I know on these calls it can be helpful to give real numbers. So I think for BillFin this year, my 1-year contract was about $500. I think that could potentially go over $1,000 is what I've been told. So I will save money, I think, by going to something like Capitech. But that's still, I would love for AUM billing. I don't know if Advice Pays ever to get there, ever able to kind of get into AUM billing, but that's one thing for me that it is also a mental stress. It's the end of the quarter. I have to bill all my clients right now. And that's something that I triple and quadruple check, because I really, really want to be careful with that. I think that's it. Like on the technology, I think the only thing I can, that I'd really say is just continued, community gathering. Like it's great to kind of jump into St. Louis or wherever the conference is once a year. And I know this is an initiative, and I know there's one coming near us. Yep, I'm going. My wife's going too. So we'll both be there. But I think that's really great, because you're right. The members are growing massively, and there are community formations. I would love an excuse to kind of get together with all the other planners and XY members in the greater New York City area. So I think the more that you guys can do that, sorry, it's going to result in a little bit more travel for you guys too, but it's wonderful to kind of see you and the home turf. And like, I think a lot of people are happy to kind of come out and do that. It's like a mini kind of XY live conference, like in our backyard, which is, I'm looking forward to those. I think just keep doing that, because I think that's great. That's only going to strengthen the good stuff you guys already have going.
Love it. Awesome. Yes, Ben mentioned our meetup initiative this year. We are trying to host at least 12 to 15 local regional meetups. And then next year, be rolling out a larger program to get our folks together in some of these hubs, and specifically in some of the states that don't have a lot of members. We had 8 members in Utah meet last month. All 8 of our Utah members met last month. So that was a win. If you can believe it, we're quickly approaching the top of the hour. I hate that. So I do want to say 3 quick things before we go. And I do want to ask one final question to our callers, or to our wonderful members. So 1, please do not forget to let us know if Nancy and Ben were the reason you joined XY. I hope you do. 2, thank you, of course, for jumping in, and please check your inbox for a little XYPN Live offer. It sounds like these 2 members think you guys should be coming, so check that out. And then finally, we would really, really love your feedback on these calls, and if they're effective, and if they help you understand what membership is like. So we're going to have a staff member drop a short survey in the chat. Please take just a few moments and let us know if this is worth your time. On that note, last and final question, and I always ask this question as an ode to Alan Moore, who asks it on the podcast. Ben, if you could go back and change one thing about what you've done, or what you wish you had learned before you started, what would it be?
Good. I should have known this was coming. All right, so I'll give 2. I think the first, which I really cannot stress and emphasize enough, is get connected to other people. That is really the X factor. For me, I was, kind of a lone soldier for a while, and those first few months were really hard. I was coming from, super corporate world, and really never thought that I would be what I'm doing right now. And that was a really tough transition. So for people who are wrestling with that, finding kinship with other people who are part of this has been so important. So that's definitely one. Find community. And the second thing is, I would just keep your cost structure lean. I think getting started out, I think sometimes you can build a bigger ship than is kind of required necessarily. So I would, kind of stay in your lane and try and keep your costs as low as possible. For me, that was going with kind of the recommended tech stack And that did create some financial flexibility, which is important too when you're starting your own business. So I didn't get crazy with paying up for too many services that weren't kind of mission critical in that first year.
Love that. Great advice. Nancy, same question.
I agree with Ben in terms of, operating as lean as possible with, the basic stuff that comes with membership. It's really a great way to start. The other thing is I would like to know that it's not as scary as you think it is going out on your own. I was so nervous about doing it. And especially I had worked in large firms my whole career. And to be on my own doing this, it really, really scared me. And I really liked having other people that I could reach out to, and not just a study group, but there's a whole onboarding program that's about 6 weeks long. And I met people through that. In fact, one of them is in my study group now. So it's not as scary as you may think it is if you do it through a network rather than just trying to do everything on your own. It's worth it. It's worth the membership. It just pays off in spades.
Awesome. Well, I hope this call was helpful to our callers. Thank you both, Ben and Nancy, so much for your time and commitment to the fee-only fiduciary space, and congratulations on being such badasses. We really, really appreciate your time and energy. All you callers, please don't forget the survey, your XYPN Live offer, and to let us know if these folks are the reason you joined. If you do come to XYPN Live, I think all three of us will be there with our hands up in the air for in-person high fives. Everyone have a wonderful, safe, and happy Wednesday night. Happy birthday to XYPN tomorrow. And thank you both. We will talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.